It's 6:31 and we are opening a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health on May 27th, 2021.
I'll ask John and Dan Script to unmute for this portion of the meeting. Deb Murphy, our health nurse, is unable to attend. But I think Dan and myself and John can probably cover all the updates.
Okay. I'm just looking for my cheat sheets here, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll start with the coronavirus update, including the recent state and local orders. Do you want to talk about that, Tony, or?
Yeah, John. Well, I'll let John and Dan. Well, I guess we'll just real quick before we get to that. I don't believe we have any active cases right now. We also are at 67% of our community is vaccinated, fully vaccinated. For our 65 to 74 and 75 plus, each of those categories are in the 95 percentile of fully vaccinated. Really, the only portion that the gap that we have there is residents that aren't eligible yet or just became eligible. So they maybe have gotten their first dose but haven't had their second yet. So anybody that I think if John can probably attest to it, and I know Deb has, is that we are well ahead of many other communities in that regard. So we're, as I mentioned in the call, on my robocall, we're so proud of our community and everybody making that an important, important to them and getting their vaccination. And obviously we're extremely thankful to the city of Lynn and the partnership we have with them. Having that, vaccination site over at Lynn Tech was a huge advantage for us. And, everybody that worked from Deb Murphy to this, the folks who helped with the call center, the Council on Aging, all of that came together and the proof is in the numbers right now. So those are all good things to report. Also, we are so Tuesday, June 1st, starting from 10 to 11 a.m. at the town hall is the second dose of Moderna. It's our vaccine clinic that we hosted at the town hall. We had about 50 people come through on 4/29. And so second dose will be available for them, and they're scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. And we also, we will take if anybody hasn't been vaccinated yet, we will take them in for their first dose. And you don't have to pre-register. When you get there, we'll register you. We'll have to figure out a way to get you your second dose, schedule you somewhere else, maybe it be CVS or Walgreens, or the regional clinic in Salem. But if you haven't had your vaccine yet, you can definitely come and get your first shot on Tuesday at the town hall at 10 a.m.
Tony, just to clarify, did you say that people for the first shot need to pre-register or no?
No, they're already scheduled. The people who got
first shot.
No, they do not need to pre-register. They
just
can
show up.
They can just show up. Yep.
Great.
So, John, do you want to get into the updates as far as governor's orders?
Sure. At first glance, it looks fairly simple that as of Saturday, all mandates become advisories with several exceptions. And while that is welcome, it brings a lot of questions that have been coming to me as to how people conduct events, gatherings, programs, and maintain some effectiveness. I remind folks that replacing mandates with with advisories does not do away with common sense. And if someone appears to be ill, they should be encouraged to go home, as we have been saying for the past year. The change this coming Saturday has brought several inquiries to me, and so I'm putting this to the board. I ask that the board go on record as stating that all groups and individuals are thanked for their efforts to comply. Without people's concerted and collective efforts, we would not have ourselves in such an enviable position as Tony referenced a couple of minutes ago. However, since as of this Saturday, mandates become advisories with several exceptions, those reviewed, approved, and accepted plans no longer apply. That gathering limits are being lifted, and face covering mandates are lifted, distancing mandates are lifted. However, I would add 2 points to that. The several exceptions include ride sharing, livery, taxis, ferries, MBTA, commuter rail, healthcare facilities, and congregate care settings, and other settings hosting vulnerable populations. So we encourage people to consider that they still certainly do have control over their individual groups, organizations, and events in which they may be the chair or director or accepting a position of authority in that group. And as such, the individual or board, or however it's governed, may set their own guidelines. There are people who are going to insist that masks be worn, that distances be maintained. And I encourage folks to look at their situations and do what they think is best, and get in touch with me or Deb for any guidance that they wish. And we've had some very fruitful discussions in the past week. Myself and folks interested in continuing to do the right thing. So again, I ask that the board go on record as thanking everybody in town for a successful effort, and that as of this Saturday, all previously approved plans need not be enforced. And anybody have any questions?
Thank you, John.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks, John. And certainly, I'll go on record as, thanking the residents of town for complying with all these regulations over this past 14 months. And thanks to you and Deb for keeping us all informed, especially. And, we recognize that while the mandates may not be in place, some recommendations may still be followed depending on the organization. So, per your request, I thank the citizens of the town. It hasn't been without pain and suffering for many people, but we made it through. Hopefully, this is the end is in sight, and thanks to everyone in town and you and Deb and everyone that's chipped in on this.
I'll add to that for anyone, there's no rules against individual businesses or sponsors of events to put forward any type of required protections. John is still a resource for everyone in town. If you have questions or seeking guidance, while you don't need an approval from John anymore, after the Board of Health takes their vote tonight, we're still here as a resource. So if you still feel that you'd like to put some restrictions on your place of business or an event that you're hosting, you can reach out to John or the town, and we'd be happy to walk you through that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a high percentage of people that are vaccinated, but there's still hundreds that aren't. So, we encourage people to, as Board of Health, we would encourage people to get vaccinated as soon as they can.
Mark, I think I cut you off for a second.
No, I support and go on record supporting your request, John. And again, thank you for all your work you've done, and thank all the residents in the community for cooperating and getting us through this.
I've said in past meetings, I'll repeat it here, that the public health situation for COVID-19 in our little town is the envy of our colleagues, mine and Deb's, on the North Shore. They're working hard to meet the needs of their communities, and I say, well, you could have worked in Nahant, but you chose to work elsewhere. Your fault.
Good point.
So with the governor, announcing that he'll be lifting his restrictions and his emergency order or orders, it still allows municipalities to retain them if they wish, or to stay consistent with the state, which we have done. In fact, in some cases, we've been ahead of, in the beginning, we were actually ahead of the state with some of the restrictions we put in place. But where because of our low positivity rates and because of our high vaccination rates, my recommendation is that the Board of Health vote to lift our local restrictions and our local declaration of emergency on the same dates that the governor is lifting his. And Dan can explain a little bit more about how some of those lifting of the restrictions may impact people here in town, committee members with open meeting laws related stuff, our local businesses with extensions of liquor license premises, other things of that nature. If the Board of Health, would you like Dan to go into a little bit?
Well, Tony, why don't we move on the motion, and then we can open up for discussion, have Dan chime in. So I so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Let's hear some discussion. You have something for us, Dan?
Sure, Josh. The governor recently, and by recently I mean 2 days ago, filed a bill with the Senate to do two things that really affect Nahant primarily. Well, not Nahant directly, but in that bill, the only two things that apply to us are the open meeting law changes that, for now, under COVID, allow complete remote participation, which, of course, as you know, was not appropriate before COVID. So the governor has asked the legislature to extend the time period for the remote participation until at least September 1st, 2021. Because as of now, it would expire on the same day that the governor revokes or rescinds the state of emergency, which would likely be the 15th, or some might argue the 16th, but right in that area. So instead of forcing the public bodies to make that drastic change so quickly and realize that the full release of the restrictions came as a bit of a surprise. It was supposed to be originally in August, but it moved it up 2 months. So to try to avoid the drastic change, he is asking the legislature to extend that temporary law until September 1st. Now, at the same time, since March, there has been 2 bills pending, one in the Senate, one in the House, looking to make this permanent, actually. Some good things, if you will, have come out of the COVID experience, and that is that a lot of the public bodies realize that remote participation and remote meetings actually makes things a lot easier, more efficient. So the legislature is recognizing that and saying, hey, maybe we'll make this a permanent thing or a permanent option. So that's out there too. But those are 2 separate things, 2 separate bills. The bill the governor filed 2 days ago also asked the legislature to extend the time for outdoor table service, and that is food and beverage. Currently, under the current situation, the outdoor table service would expire 60 days after the rescission of the state of emergency, which would calculate to August 15th. The governor is looking to extend that August 15th date to November 29th. So we'll see how that goes. My guess is that it's going to go through smoothly and that we'll get a response within the next 2 weeks, certainly before the 15th. But what we should realize now is that any public body that's looking to have a meeting on the 16th, if not the 15th, should assume it's going to be in person for now. But that's pretty easy because they only need 48 hours of notice. The more troubling question are hearings, because they, of course, need 2 weeks worth of notice. So any hearings that's being noticed for as early as the 15th, we should assume will be in person for now. To add one thing to what John mentioned earlier, and that is that the kids and the staff at Johnson School will still be required to wear masks after the 29th. And the folks over at Jesmond, same thing, because that's a vulnerable care center. So correct me if I'm wrong, John, but they will still need to wear masks, and a lot of the restrictions still apply to them to some degree.
Correct. Yes.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
So to summarize, for the moment, we should assume that all open meetings will be in person unless something changes between now and the 15th.
That's right. My expectation is that it will still be able to be remote, but we can't rely on that. We've got to assume for now that they will be in person.
What was the start date on those again?
The start date is June 15th is the date of rescission. And I haven't actually seen the order yet. I know the governor talked about issuing an order. I actually haven't seen it. I'm not quite sure it's out there yet. But in any case, let's assume I said originally to Tony the 16th, but I'm going to update that and say the 15th to be extra sure.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly there are some conveniences to being able to do these things remotely. I know a couple of the meetings in early May, I was in California and, was able to participate. So we'll have to think about if that option becomes available, whether we want to pursue it or not.
Well, as you know, Josh, the folks can participate remotely. I mean, what I mean is members can participate remotely if a quorum is in person, as long as the chair is in person as well. So one of you as selectmen can participate remotely under the standard open meeting laws, but that may change permanently. We'll see. Yeah, so you can always be in California.
But maybe I can't unless I can get thrown off the chair.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll have to play that one by ear as
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
And we're also, we've been following the liquor license changes very closely. Dan's been keeping me informed. We're getting, information from the ABCC and from the governor's office and from public health every day. And we are putting together an email to send out, and potentially, we held a few, we don't have a chamber of commerce in Nahant, but we held some chamber meetings with our local businesses throughout this pandemic. And we'll be hosting another one with them to inform them on the steps that they would need to take if they want to make some of those temporary changes permanent. It depends on where your business is and where your outdoor seating is, and there's a lot of unique circumstances to each business owner. But even if the legislation passes, we will be encouraging our businesses to file sooner than later, because you can imagine that the ABCC is going to be pretty busy with a large pile of those from all over the state. So we'll be sending something out to our local businesses and following that up with a phone call conference meeting.
So there's a motion. The motion is to basically follow the governor's orders, guidelines, right?
Right, to release the restrictions as of May 29th, but for public transportation, the schools and the care facilities, and also to match the rescission date of the state of emergency with the Commonwealth's.
All right. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Evermy. We have some opening comments here. The compost area is now open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You do need a 2021 Nahant resident sticker. And if you visit nahant.org, you can find a list of acceptable materials. But it's basically brush and leaves and grass and so on, no plastic. Recycling for metal and white goods, TVs and computers is open on the last Saturday of each month from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon behind the DPW on Flash Road. Fees may apply. Checks only, no cash. Visit nahant.org or call the DPW at the town hall for more information. So that's this Saturday, 2 days from now. I'll be there. Parking stickers are available at nahant.org for $10 each. They're available to residents whose cars are registered and garaged or housed in Nahant. Valid registration is required for purchase along with payment of all outstanding bills and taxes due to the town. The water and sewer bills are being sent out tomorrow, Friday, May 28th, 2021, and are due Monday, June 28th, 2021. If you have any questions, please call the treasurer collector's office at the town hall. The Board of Selectmen will be switching to the summer meeting schedule starting Wednesday, June 9th at 6 p.m. So per the last discussion, that will be an in-person meeting unless something changes.
That can still be virtual.
Oh, okay.
Before the 14th, so we can do that one by Zoom.
All right. So we'll plan on doing that one by Zoom and then take it as it comes after that. So the Board of Selectmen will meet on the second Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. unless otherwise posted. So nominally it'll be once a month, at least on my 2 years of experience. We wind up meeting more than that, but that'll be the nominal schedule anyway. New business. We have a new appointment to the Nahant Police Department.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add an opening statement that wasn't on the list?
Oh yeah.
I said it on my robocall, but because of the restrictions being lifted, the town hall is going to return to full-time public hours. So we will be open Monday through Friday to the public starting Monday, June 7th.
Great. Mark or Gene, do you have any additional opening comments?
I just want to state the obvious and just thank Tony and your team for such a successful town meeting, and to thank all of the residents who showed up. It was an epic day in the town of Nahant, and a lot of the credit goes to you and your team, Tony. You did a great job, including scheduling the good weather. So thank you again.
As kids say, back at you, Mark.
Yeah, that was unbelievably well organized, especially in consideration of the fact that it was probably close to double to the largest town meeting we've ever had, or at least that I know of. So, yeah, awesome job.
I just had a couple of things I've been talking with Tony about. As with most things, he's all over it to begin with, but one of them was to put a better identification on the harbor master's boat, maybe large Nahant letters along the side with a badge, whatever it might be, but something to clearly identify it as the harbor master. The other was the arborvitae's covering the front and the side of the dump to kind of completely block it out, but Tony's already working on a fencing process if he wants to talk about it, and maybe the arborvitae's in the background. So just something to clean that up. Not the dump. The dump is in great shape, but just its site.
Yeah, the visual from the road, you mean?
Yes.
So we, one of the CPC projects that was approved was beautifying that recreational area that is in front of the dump. And with that comes some fencing. So we hope to put some fencing in along the back side, and then on the left side that comes towards Spring Road. And then what we will likely do is plant some taller trees behind the fence that'll, create that additional, visual barrier. It may take some time for them to grow, but yeah, that's part of one of those projects.
That'd be great. What's the fence height in town?
It's 6 feet, I think.
Is 6 feet?
5 or 6.
It's 5 feet on frontage and side, and 6 feet on rear property line.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other opening comments? All right, so moving on to new business. Again, we have a new police officer to appoint. I don't know if Chief is with us.
He's unfortunately not on right now. I texted him, he said he can't make it. I think he's dealing with some official police business.
All right, and what about Officer Abramowitz? Is he here? No.
Let's see. I don't see him on the call. Ethan, if you're on the call, feel free to unmute yourself.
All right, well, I saw the letter from Chief Dwyer, the appointment letter, so it's good to see. I don't know, Tony, if you had anything to add in the absence of the chief, or?
Well, once again, Chief Dwyer, who does a remarkable job with filling vacant spots on the police department. And it's you guys know, because we've had so many come through over the last couple of years here, it's just tough. There's not a lot of police are retiring across the Commonwealth. A lot of cities and towns are looking for fully trained, full academy police officers, and it's difficult to hold on to them sometimes. Some of these other communities are able to pay, much more than we are. So we're, constantly dealing with transition, and when it comes with transition, because we're minimally manned, meaning we have the exact amount of officers that we have shifts. When we go down an officer, we have to backfill that with overtime, so it costs the town a little bit more money. If you fill that spot with a new officer that needs to go to a full academy, that adds months of overtime and plus training costs. So, I don't think in the last 5 or 6 appointments that we've done, any one of them had to go to a full academy. Chief Dwyer does a tremendous job, and recruiting fully trained officers into our reserve group. And, Ethan is another one of these great officers that's going to be coming to the town fully trained. So we're excited to have him. We're happy to get him on board as soon as possible, especially with the summer months. We need the extra officer on staff. So highly recommended by Chief Dwyer.
He's got some good credits there. He says he's a graduate of the Municipal Police Training Committee, Basic Reserve Training Course for Police Officers at the Mass State Police Academy, and he is currently working on a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So he's off to a good start.
Yep. 22 years of age, so yeah, he's an up-and-comer. So in his letter, the chief requests that he be appointed in expeditious fashion. So with that, I'll entertain any motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the appointment of Officer Ethan Abramowitz as the Nahant full-time police officer.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or remarks? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. The next item is to vote to change the speed limit. This applies to Wilson Road and Little Nahant. We've had some complaints from residents there that that the current speed limit of 25 miles an hour is a little high considering the congestion and the speed limits in nearby streets. So
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to change the speed limit on Wilson Road in Nahant from 25 miles an hour to 20.
Second,
discussion and remarks. I just want to point out that this has been reviewed with Chief Dwyer and he supports the change. Any other discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the last few days, we've taken a closer look at this and, the state law that surrounds, our authority to change speed limits. Point of clarification, we are changing the speed limit as posted. However, we believe we're actually making a correction to an incorrect posting. We believe that the 25 mile an hour posting was done by the state when they were making construction improvements to the causeway. Little Nahant Road is 20 miles an hour. And the congestion is the same there as it is on Wilson Road. With your vote, we believe we're making a correction to an incorrectly posted roadway. And we'll also send a letter stating that and Chief Dwyer's support of this change to MassDOT to let them know of the change that we're making.
Yeah, my only comment, Tony, I know we're talking about science here. If we could put on the next agenda a discussion about possibly conducting a sign audit for the entire town. I know that you brought it up in the past, and I think it's a good time to discuss it again. I think it would be appropriate.
agree.
I have it. I have summer parking issues, which signage is a part of that under my town administrator report.
Okay, great.
Yes, we're definitely going to be looking into a professional audit.
Is there any further discussion or remarks on this motion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. The next item is declaring surplus equipment. We'll hear the motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen declare the DPW 2008 John Deere 310 SJ backhoe as surplus equipment.
Seconded.
Any discussion? I know, at the town meeting on the 15th, the voters authorized the funds to purchase a new backhoe, and I'm assuming this is the old backhoe being surplused.
It's your opportunity, Josh, to get a backhoe now for your new place up in New Hampshire.
You're right. Chapter 30B procurement law requires the Board of Selectmen to vote to declare it as surplus before we can trade it in, which we are using the trade-in value of the old backhoe towards the cost of the new.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Ron Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Request special act to validate September 2020 town meeting. Yeah, you kind of explained this issue to me on the phone the other day, Tony, but maybe you want to repeat that explanation.
Yes, and it's September 26th.
Okay.
You see that in the motion, but there was an error in that backup packet there. But yeah, so September 26th. September 26th, 2020 town meeting was the postponed annual town meeting due to COVID. The only borrowing article that we had in that meeting was our $4.6 million borrowing for our sewer repair job on the Linway. When we approached bond council to do the borrowing for that, and we're almost at full permitting and preparing bid docs at the moment. And by law, we have to have the money in hand in order to award a contract. Bond council asked for some backup information about the vote, meeting, the warrant, the posting, and noticed that our September 26th, 2020 meeting was posted 10 days in advance of the meeting, which meets state law requirements and even met the COVID guideline requirements that we were following last summer. However, the town has a local bylaw that requires meetings to be posted, annual town meetings to be posted 14 days in advance. So with that, bond council is requiring a special act to validate the vote that was taken at town meeting. It's fairly normal procedure. It happens quite a bit. I spoke with Senator Crichton's office today. We'll see them Monday. And Mark, I'll chase you down tomorrow for a signature and hand them the hard copy on Monday, and they will get it filed. And it should flow through the House and Senate fairly quickly. And so essentially what this is to validate the vote that occurred in September of last year.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote that the town of Nahant request the introduction and passage of special legislation in substantially the form attached hereto, which special legislation will ratify, validate, and confirm the town's September 26th, 2020 annual town meeting and all actions pursuant thereto.
Second.
Any further discussion or remarks? I'll just add that hopefully this moves quickly through the legislature. We're eager to get the shovels on the ground on the sewer main replacement along the Linway. It'll keep your number of robocalls down, Tony.
We're definitely pushing for it as a quick to get through the State House quickly as well.
Yeah, they usually do this in closed session and they'll pass it right away.
Any other discussion or remarks? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Ron Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Vote to accept recycling partnership grant. The Recycling Partnership is a nonprofit organization that provides grant funding to help local governments invest in their curbside recycling programs. This grant will help us with upgrading our curbside recycling program.
So we applied for a recycling partnership grant to help pay for the cost of the recycling totes that we asked town meeting to approve the use of $75,000 of retained earnings for the cost of those totes. We were awarded that grant days before town meeting. So that grant's $22,000 and some change, essentially taking the cost per tote from $55 down to $35. That's a success. Cutting the cost of those, the total cost of the purchase of those totes, by $20-something thousand, and ask that the board vote to accept the grant.
Absolutely. Let's see, did someone read the motion?
No, here's you to read it, but I'll make it. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept the Recycling Partnership Grant.
Second.
Any other discussion? Thanks for applying for it, Tony. Roll call vote?
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrim, aye. Ongoing business, town meeting recap. This is just a discussion. I don't know, anybody have any comments? We talked about this a little bit during the opening comments, but went really well. It was great to see such a large segment of the population participating, and very well organized.
I would, Josh, Mr. Chairman, I would encourage people, if they have like video, photos that they took during the day of the venue, to send them to the Nahant Historical Society so that they could be archived. I think it would be an important thing to do.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question. When does the article for the plastic bags go into effect?
That's a good question, Gene. I think it's 30 days or 60 days after the Attorney General approval. You guys keep talking. I'll check on the motion now and get you an exact response.
Okay, great. Thank you. No, it just, I happened to see them circulating around town, so I said, there must be a time frame.
Yeah. Tony, did you have anything to add or comment on the town meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to do this probably, I don't know, separately, maybe another meeting or something, but there was, on top of, the eminent domain article and the Coast Guard housing article, which, should have received a lot of attention. There was a ton of other positive things that got passed at that town meeting. We accomplished, basically 2 years worth of approvals and articles in that meeting, and there's a lot to celebrate there. The omnibus budget that we presented, that was approved, represented only a 2.4% increase over last year. It emphasized the priority in public health and public safety by creating a public health department in our general fund, funded at $117,000 versus in the past being separated amongst other accounts and only being funded at about $23,000. We continued to fund or make significant deposits into stabilization, which is $125,000 we put in there again this year, bringing it up to $419,645. We added another $25,000 to our post-employment benefits fund, bringing it up to about $78,000. We paid down $344,000 extra in our minimum required payment towards debt. And 100% of our free cash was used appropriately and used for one-time expenditures, funding capital projects, and replenishing other reserves. All of those items are huge for our bond rating, which obviously, similar to your own personal credit score, helps us get better interest rates when we go for large borrowings in the future. With CPC, we had 26 articles of CPC. I won't go through them all, but we approved so many, projects that people are going to see and touch and feel, and it's going to make a huge difference to the community with Flash Road basketball, tennis courts, Spring Road basketball court, Little Nahant playground, Lowlands softball field, Little League baseball field, significant investments in housing authority properties, a ton of great stuff there. The recycling carts we already talked about. We created a few we created a couple new revolving accounts that help us, when Concom and ZBA perform their jobs more efficiently. We approved borrowing for a new municipal finance software that is going to pay dividends for years and years to come as far as the town being able to manage our finances better. We approved a big borrowing for police communications, police radio communications. Just a whole ton of stuff there that we should be very proud of, and certainly we have a lot to get done now that it's all approved, and we have a plate full of work to do, but a lot got accomplished in that meeting. And like you guys said, we had 1,105 people check in on that Saturday, and even on Sunday, where I was nervous we would even have a quorum, I think we had 300 to 400 people. Open town meeting is the purest form of government, and we had folks there that ranged in all ages. It was just a great representation of the town, and we got a lot done. So proud of it, and just wanted to say a couple comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that summary, Tony. Definitely agree. It feels really good to see our finances come into shape. I know you and Allison and FinCom put in tremendous hours making that happen, and I'm really excited about all these community preservation projects as well. They're, as you said, projects that people, as they drive around town, will be able to see and feel good about. So yeah, pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the plastic bag bylaw goes into effect 6 months after the AG approves it and is posted.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
I was joking with Chief Dwyer after the town meeting about the firearms article that was amended on the floor and required a study of the chief of police with a report at next year's town meeting. So I told him he can't retire because he's now town meeting vote is now required him to stick around another year.
It's got some duties still.
Yeah.
All right, so the next topic is preserving East Point. As probably most people know, the eminent domain articles were approved at the annual town meeting. Not wanting to let things linger, and because Gene and Mark, we can't convene, outside of open meeting, I took the liberty of sending Ralph Martin, Northeastern's general counsel, a letter asking if we can get negotiations started with some mediation, probably preceded with an initial meeting. I felt comfortable sending that because I know it's the same things that the three of us have been publicly requesting. So I did send that letter last Wednesday, and I think it was Monday or Tuesday of this week. We received a reply from Mr. Martin indicating his willingness to resume negotiations or continue negotiations with only one condition, which is confidentiality. And so we do have an executive session meeting at the end of this open session meeting to talk about that and other topics related. It's a little, I'll speak for myself personally. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how these things are governed, but full confidentiality, I feel, puts us in a little bit of a bind because, we are here to represent, the people of Nahant. So I'm hoping we can have an arrangement where we can keep the people of Nahant fully appraised, but more to come on that, I guess, following our executive session.
Well, Josh, I can tell you that any confidential agreement has no effect on the open meeting law or public records requests. So that plays into that. And you still have to abide by the open meeting law. So any confidential agreement, this is nothing new. This happens all the time with cities and towns. Whatever agreement they come up with, Jeff, of course, will know that you've got to have a clause in there said, but for, general laws, which require transparency in many instances. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. But, I'm happy to see that Northeastern's willing to engage in what I think all hope will be productive negotiations. Mark or Gene, do you have any?
No, I think you summed it up. I did see a copy of Mr. Martin's letter, and I too was a little concerned with that clause. We can talk about it in executive session, but I thank you, Dan, for clearing that up. We do have a responsibility to keep people in the heart informed about what's going on. Northeastern doesn't have to do that. So, I'm a little concerned about that, and we can talk about it in the executive session.
Yeah. And incidentally, for anybody who's interested, the letter that I sent to Northeastern is up on our website on the page that has all the Northeastern related documents.
I'm not an attorney either, but I think that we need to get a better definition of why he's asking for that, for the confidentiality, and how restrictive he intends to be with it.
Yeah.
With that, Gina, I think I'd like to make a motion, if it would be all right with you, Josh, that the board recognize you, Josh, as the chair of the board to represent us in these negotiations. Gene and I can't be attending them without hosting a public meeting. So I would move that, Gene, that we authorize the chair to represent the town in these negotiations.
I would second that.
Okay. So one of the things I was planning on bringing up in our executive session is, I guess it's been sort of the assumption that the chair would be the one that attends these negotiations, but if we think that we are better off with somebody else, I'm certainly open to that idea. So,
well, why don't we do this? Why don't I withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman? Let's talk about it in executive session, and if we need to do that, we will. I can imagine maybe as negotiations go on, either I or Gene could step in. I just recognize the fact that only one of us can be there at a time.
Yeah.
So, but that may change as we go through. So I'll withdraw my motion at this point.
okay, that's good. I think, we want to maintain, maximum flexibility and to achieve the best outcome from the negotiation. So,
Okay.
is there any other discussion on preserving East Point? I guess we can move on to the town administrator's report.
There was sorry to back up a step there. There was a Concom meeting I went on vacation the week after town meeting. I think there was a Concom meeting that week. And I believe it was continued. I don't believe they made it a final determination. Am I correct on that?
Yes,
Okay. So,
you're correct.
town administrator report, Memorial Day ceremony. I put a robocall out yesterday. We have stuff on our website. As I mentioned in the robocall, and I think I've talked about this offhand here and there. Last year, Memorial Day was the first major event that we had to cancel because of the pandemic. We were able to do a pre-recorded virtual celebration and broadcast that on our local TV channels. But I know I'm not alone when I say, throughout the year, as guidelines, got more strict and then loosened, it always ate at me that, we weren't able to get together as a group for arguably the most important day of, honoring veterans that have passed away, folks who have fought for our country. So after the new year, we started talking immediately about doing something in person this year. At the time, lifting of the restrictions hadn't been announced yet. And, we tossed around the idea of doing a parade. And even though we could control, the public safety of the people involved in the parade, we wouldn't have control of those, residents, on their porch or on the front yard watching the parade. So we were nervous about at the time, if we did a parade, how that could potentially, lead to a spread in cases. So we decided to just do the ceremony at the cemetery of our typical Memorial Day celebration. So that's what we're doing. And, now the restrictions are lifted. So, at the time when we planned this, it was 150 people. Then it was going to go up to 250 people. And now it's going to be, completely no limit. So, I'm thrilled that we're going to be able to get together as a community. I'm praying that we have, that the weather holds strong for us. We did announce veterans who passed away in the year 2020 in that virtual celebration, but we're going to announce them again, along with those who have passed in 2021. And those families are invited to the ceremony to be there. We'll have a sixth grade, a selected member of the sixth grade class reading the Gettysburg Address as always. Swampscott Band will be there. I'm really excited about it, and I hope everybody can make it.
Yeah, it'll be great to have our first big public event, and it's too bad we can't do the parade, but the cemetery is certainly, I don't know if the highlight's the right word, but the iconic moment for Memorial Day in Nahant, so glad we can do that. All right, what about scouts and stuff like that, Tony? Will they?
Yeah, they'll be there.
Yeah. So essentially everything we normally expect on Memorial Day at the cemetery will, yes, as usual. So the first step.
Summer parking issues. So obviously last weekend was our first very hot weekend of the summer, spring, summer. And we had, there was a lot of traffic on the causeway. There was a lot of folks parked around town. We had an issue with non-resident permitted vehicles parked on Ward Road, and in the parking lot and even on the dune at Doggy Beach coming into town, as well as, 40 steps and down the wharf. And there was a lot of congestion throughout the community. Our police department was ready for it. We just had a lot going on. We did a great job of keeping folks moving through the wharf. They ticketed over 75 cars and moved over 100 cars, non-ticketed. So, over 200 vehicles were dispersed. While it may have seemed like super out of control, it was actually very much under control. And I thank our police officers for their work. Obviously, I got the picture sent to me of cars parked on the dune on Nahant Road across from Little Nahant by Doggy Beach. And, it was certainly upsetting that folks would, pull up on the grass there. Regardless of signage, obviously it's not a parking lot. And it's a dune, it's a protected area. And it's a beautiful area. So, I think that picture surfaced on social media and had, 30 comments on it before any police officer was called. But as soon as our police station was made aware of it, they got down there and got people out of there within 10 minutes. So I met with Chief Dwyer and Zach and Dan Scripp about parking issues, signage issues, what the law authorizes us to do and don't do. We talked about hotspots in town, Linda Lane, Wilson Road, Castle Road, Nahant Road, Ward Road, the wharf, 40 steps. We talked about improving the signage in those areas, not so much making changes to the existing rules, but just improving the signage. We talked about the ability to tow. I think, I hear a lot from people about, why aren't we towing more cars? Sometimes, in certain areas, it's impossible to get a car out on a tow truck or on a flatbed, just the way that people are parked. But even more so, unless marked as a tow zone, you technically aren't allowed to tow. So, that's something that would come with a improved signage. And that's something that Selectman Cullinan brought up earlier is, and we discussed, is hiring a firm to come out and do a sign audit, take a look at what we have for signs, what's missing, what should be there, what improvements can be made, present that to the board. That'll take some time, but we've already identified some hotspot issues that, the Chief Dwyer kind of labels these areas as, some are preventative and some are reactionary. And we're gonna put some signage up that's gonna help give the police the authority to do their job. And as far as Doggy Beach goes, we talked about that area that people were parked on the dune. It's never happened before. It's the first time we've seen anything like that. So we don't want to react too quickly and fill the area up with signage or fencing or physical barriers, because it may not be a common occurrence. The area is so beautiful. We don't want to destroy it because of a couple bad apples that decided to park there. But we are going to keep an eye on it. And if it continues to happen and we have to do something there, we're ready to do so.
Tony, is this sign audit in line with what Mark was talking about?
Yes. Yeah. So we've done our own in-house audit of existing signs, but bringing a professional in, giving them the information that we've already gathered, is really what's necessary. Like I said, there's parking issues it's not super simple. It's not extremely difficult either, but you have areas in town that are labeled as permit parking only, meaning you need a sticker, like Lowlands, or Ward Road Overflow, like the Wharf area, Canoe Beach. And then there's other areas in town that are resident parking only, which technically mean you don't need a sticker. Your car your registration has to come back to a Nahant address.
Can we make non-tow areas tow areas?
We can. There is a legal review involved in that, and that's where, bringing in a professional company to do that sign audit would be able to identify areas that could be deemed tow zone areas.
Great.
We have it's times have changed, to be honest. Nowadays you write a ticket and almost, a significant more amount of tickets get appealed than in the past. And, if the sign isn't right and you're not being consistent with other cars in the same area, you're subject to an appeal. And obviously we want to be writing legal tickets or legal violations. So that's why it's not a super simple. It's not overly difficult. It just takes a little bit more work and time. And I think bringing in the professional company would help tremendously with that. But I will say that, our police department does a great job. Last year, $60,000 worth of tickets in 6 months, when we typically are writing $30,000 worth of tickets in a year. So, we've certainly stepped it up over the past year, and we're going to continue to do so this summer.
Is that it on parking, Tony? Gets his computer settled.
Aging.
We got
holidays. We talked about this a little bit the other day about July 4th, Tony. Hoping we can have the Horribles Day Parade and all the races and egg toss and so on down at the Clash Road Playground. So,
I'm all in favor of those local events. Anything, the more we can do to bring our community together, especially the youth who, suffered so much from the loss of that last year. I'm all in favor of it. Fireworks, unfortunately, our neighboring communities. I just saw yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, Marblehead announced, that they're canceling as well. So Danvers, Marblehead, Salem, Beverly, Lynn, Swampscott, Revere, all canceled. And obviously, kind of ties our hands in a way. You obviously see a tremendous inflow of people if you were the only show in the area. So unfortunately, that's where we are with fireworks. But those local events associated with 4th of July, I'm all for it, and gonna work to bring those back.
sounds good. Maybe we can have a reason to get together on Labor Day weekend and have fireworks then. We'll see.
I hope so.
Anything else in your report, Tony?
No, that's all I got.
The next item is Citizens Forum.
Pratt, is the first one on my list. Erica, I'm going to ask you to unmute. I had a question about parking on Castle Road.
Hi, sorry, I was,
I'll come back. I didn't know you were.
oh, okay. I'm in the hospital. I just had a baby yesterday, but anyway,
Congratulations.
thank you.
What the heck?
So, my question is, the Castle Road parking, it seems to be more than just a summer issue. There seems to be parking, even though there's signage that's, says no parking either side. So I was wondering if, is that a tow zone or, just a ticketing zone?
If I'll have to I'm not positive about what the signage is or like where specifically you're talking about.
It's the hill basically between Castle Way and I think, Carolyn Circle.
Like coming down and around the corner.
Yeah, like I witnessed a fire truck trying to navigate down there and it was having difficulty, so it seems like a safety issue. And then when the cars are parked on the sidewalk, it's pedestrians have to walk in the street.
Well, definitely parking on the sidewalk is illegal. And if you see that, please call the police department. And then we'll come out and either, hit the area with warnings as a courtesy or start ticketing. We definitely the sidewalks are meant for walking and not for parking. If the area is, if the signage in the area says no parking either side, then that is the rule. That doesn't mean that if you're a resident, you can park there. That doesn't mean if you have a resident permit sticker that you can park there. If it says no parking either side or this side or one side only, that is a general rule and applies to everyone. So if that's the case, I'll have to take a look. I'm not sure if the signage is if there's enough signage or what. It'll be part of it'll definitely be an area of attention for our audit.
Great.
Erica, is it both, is it a situation where both sides of the roads are being parked on?
Yes. And also there's always delivery trucks. And so that also makes it difficult to navigate because, I understand the delivery trucks are only there temporarily and, they have to deliver, but when they're there and then on top of the parked cars, you either have to wait for the traffic to disperse or you have to unsafely navigate and go over marked lanes.
All right, so we'll check into that, but in the meantime, get some rest and take care of it.
Okay. Thanks, Josh.
Congratulations.
Anything in the chat, Tony?
Alice Court. And I'm gonna, Alice, I'm asking you to unmute, and I should have mentioned it to Erica. We should make sure that anybody speaking to Citizens Forum, please announce your name and your address.
Hi, this is Alice Court at 7 Valley Road. I just asked a question much earlier when you were talking about the improvements down by the the compost area, just that I learned at the Concom meeting last week about the arborvitaes and other areas or, some of the planting. And I just wondered whether the town has to go through Concom as well because it's in a wetlands area and get, advice and suggestions about how to proceed with how to improve that area. I'm all for making it, beautifying it, but I learned a lot last week about what needs to be done in, some of these different wetlands areas. So
Yes,
that's all.
we have, I believe that we've improved our relationship with the Concom. I think in the past, it's it's been off and on, and, I believe that the town should lead by example, when it comes to, abiding by our local permitting. And so, yes, if any of the work that we're doing in the wetlands area requires Concom order conditions, we are consulting with Kristen Kent and taking care of that ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to lead by example. I mean,
all right, Cora.
in the past, Cora's had trouble unmuting herself. Is it?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Well, I'll read your question. Let's see. CPA funding was approved for refurbishment of courts on Spring and Flash Road. There's a basketball court at the school on Flash Road and Spring Road. Can you elaborate on what exactly the plan is? Is possibility one of the courts can be converted to a pickleball court? What is the timeline for these projects? Thank you, Cora. The Flash Road court improvements is a complete ground up rehab project. So the old basketball court and tennis courts will be completely removed. A big issue with the old courts is the subgrade and drainage issues. So all that will be improved. And what will be replaced is the same thing, a basketball court and 2 tennis courts. But we did get a lot of input from the community, and especially the older community, about requesting pickleball be included. So the tennis courts will have pickleball court lines in them. So yes, you will be able to play pickleball on new tennis courts. What is the timeline for these projects? So we're just we've already reached out to the company that had submitted a bid and was holding their numbers for us. Right now, construction and materials are delayed because everybody is, it's just a really busy construction season. So I know we've already reached out to them, that we got the approval, and I think we're just waiting on a construction timeline from them. But the hope is to have break ground, this summer, and hopefully it's ready to go by the fall.
The Spring Road basketball court and the school court are more or less paving. They're not ripping up the.
Yeah, Spring Road, the court, the pavement's in actually great shape. So the work that was approved, the money that was approved, the funding that was approved by CPC through CPC is to basically do it's like an epoxy coating colored paint that also provides like a skim coat layer on top of the existing pavement, and then new basketball hoops, and then the fencing. Hudson. I'm not, all right, yep, you're unmuted.
Hi, thank you so much. It's Ann Hudson, and I live on Castle Road. I live in the great, what one of the officers called oh, what did they call it? The Triangle of Death, because I live right where the V is, going up Harborview and up Castle Road. So I see lots of interesting things, people in cars trying to get up Harborview, come down Harborview, go up Castle, and it's crazy. But, and I've talked to Chief Dwyer about it lots of times, and he's been awesome. But I guess my question is, and I know this comes up every summer, is how people who put the signs in their windshields about that they're visiting a house. And I mean, last summer it was a huge problem here where I live, because people would visit a house every day. And it wasn't just because, the neighbor was having a gathering. So it became like in front of my house became sort of like the extended Short Beach parking lot. I saw people undressing. I saw people drinking. I've had people passed out on my front lawn. And so I just, and he took care of this one particular neighbor that was just allowing anyone to park. And so how is that handled? I guess, if someone's having a party, that's understandable that you're going to put a sign in your windshield, but how does it happen, or how is it dealt with that it happens on a consistent basis? Because I've been sworn at by people, I've been yelled at by people. It's pretty horrific every summer, and it stinks because I love to live here and I love my house, but it doesn't become fun in the summer, and this is the time I want to be here.
Well, I'm sorry for.
I know. You don't have to be sorry.
Well, we hear it. It's not. You're not alone in that.
I know.
To be honest with you, it's a tough balance for
Yeah.
us and for the police department because
They're great.
Because it's tough. It's tough sometimes when we get calls from residents saying I don't want this car parked in front of my house that's a non-resident, and then they have their own friend who's a non-resident parking in front of their house. It becomes a very difficult job for the police to, we don't have enough guys or enough time to be knocking on every door to double check that
Sure.
the non-resident car is related to the people that live there. Certainly if there's an issue and it's consistent like that, you should call the police station, and Chief Dwyer, and really all the guys over there, have a community policing style, if you will, and try to work like they did with you.
Yes.
So, it's a tough one. We do have a lot of, I fully understand the argument about resident parking and resident cars being able to park there. Our general fund, our town is funded 95% through your property taxes. So it's not, we don't have a ton of outside revenue coming into town, and our properties and the things that we get to enjoy are funded through our residents' taxes. So I completely understand, and believe that, you have the right to park and have your family or friends who may not live in town be able to park in front of your home. But it becomes a difficult process for the town to, balance a non-resident that may be visiting a resident, or just a non-resident that is finding a place to sneak in and park. So, we're working on it. That's something that we're going to go through with our sign audit and try to figure out what's the best way to go. A lot of residents, what they do is they'll take their cars and put them on the street and allow their guests to park in their driveways.
Right.
Not all residents have driveways or have multi-car options. So unfortunately, there isn't a simple answer. But other than, please call us and we will do our best to try to work out a solution.
Just my 2 cents is the exact same situation in the same area that came up last summer. And, if it's one thing if you're having a cookout or something and you have a bunch of guests, but really not right if it's a daily basis.
That's right. Yep. And I think people came, that didn't even know the person in the house and said, I'm parking here. I'm a friend of, such and such Castle Road. And they don't even know those people. So it was just becoming a crappy quality of life in front of my house, I guess is the best way to put it. But,
It's tough.
pardon me?
Tough because if we go tag every single car that doesn't come back to a Nahant resident, then we get the other calls of,
Right.
I live here, I should be able to have friends come to my house for the beach or for a
But
barbecue.
every day though, is it, an everyday
No,
thing, weekend thing? That's where and the other thing is, because I live at the Triangle of Death coming down Harborview, at one time years ago, a few years after I moved here, I guess maybe 12, 15, 14 years ago, when Richie was on the board, he and I were having a conversation and my kids were little then. And, the yield sign coming down Harborview was faded. All it was an upside down triangle. It didn't say yield on it anymore. And so I had asked him for either a stop sign there or a better yield sign. And he was good enough and somehow got that done. So that was helpful. And he also put a caution sign there. But in the meantime, what also happened was I had talked about in front of my house, and somehow the no parking sign in front of my house got switched to a resident parking sign. So it's the only stretch on Castle Road right in front of my house that has that. And I don't even know how or why that happened. And it happened in like a day. So if I could somehow be informed, or if I know we'll all probably be informed about the sign audit, I'm interested in that very much.
Okay.
And I appreciate everything. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm complaining, because I've been dealing with it for years, and I thought this would be a nice time to come and talk to you guys about it. And I appreciate you listening. And I appreciate the police department. Thank you.
Well, thanks for speaking up, Ann. It's important.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And, once we hire, I'm sure there'll be a public process associated with it, and all that will be publicly posted, and we'll look for the input of our residents. Like I said, it's not super simple. It's not overly complicated. It's just every little area is a little unique, and but we'll do our best to get it right. I don't have anyone else in the chat. If there's anyone else on the call that has a comment or question, you can unmute yourself, announce your name and address. Okay, sounds like that's it.
Okay, so that's it on citizens forum. So we're going to adjourn and enter into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Northeastern University Marine Science Center, 430 Nahant Road, Nahant. If the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. And also in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations, negotiations with the town administrator.
And Mr. Chairman, will we be getting back into open session, or will we be closing in?
We will not be returning to open session.
I'll second that.
All right, I'm not sure if we're roll call vote.
Shane Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Tony, are we staying on this call?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.